Now, as many of you might remember from the PlayStation 2 generation, and really everything surrounding it, that being Xbox, GameCube, certainly the portables, there was a very strange lineup of accessories from third parties that were oftentimes questionable at best, as in what kind of problem are they really trying to solve with this thing. So there was always these wacky things that you could buy, but one that I recently picked up, again, granted I never had it before, but it was so unique and I'm like, oh my god, we have to document this on video. It is putting a very tiny screen onto a controller, and that way you can split the video signal. You still get it to the TV, but you can also get it sent to this very, very, very tiny, ridiculously small screen and play your PS2 games that way, which it's really kind of interesting to look back on a device like this where, you know, we have the PlayStation Portal for PS5, and that kind of has the same use case as this, where the Portal is something where you can use it outside of your home network, but that's not ideal. The main, use case there is that you play it from your couch or your bedroom or something, and it frees up a TV for your children, maybe a significant other. And so this is kind of doing the same thing, albeit you're still tethered to a wire, but you can very much free up a TV and play your PlayStation 2 games. 3 generations earlier. I thought this was just one of the weirdest things ever, and there's not many of these that are actually still like working, so on the secondhand market a lot of them are broken or incomplete, but I thought, you know what, we have got to document this on video, and let's start off with, of course, enjoying a lovely PlayStation 2 startup sequence that helps me sleep at night. All right, let's get this thing working. So the basic setup of this thing is that you've got a controller port, obviously. Also, it needs its own power source. And then here is the video out where technically I believe you can just run this without connecting the additional one that would go to the TV. So in theory, you don't have to be plugged into a TV. But if you want to, you can, again, split the signal and have something where people can watch the TV and you can also play from the controller. Let's get that unplugged. Plug this in. Just gonna wrap around to the front. Let's actually do it this way. I just pulled out 2 pins from my OEM composite cable. That's lovely. I don't suspect this will now go to the TV. Hey! I was able to put the pins back on. The show must go on, alright. Crisis averted. Yeah, you don't really get much distance. I mean, we're talking about early thousands living rooms here. So you're just playing this thing on the couch right in front of it. Possibly pulling the PS2 out of the entertainment system, if you had one. At least in my household, it was just left it right there on the floor. Carpet, of course. Not great for the PS2. But I'm more than certain I was not the only one doing that at the time. Alright, we got everything plugged in, and we just hit the switch right here. And it immediately comes on. Look at that. Now that's hard to see, but if I get you zoomed in, we're good to go. We enter the browser. There's our memory card. And I just, it's so ridiculous looking. So you can see we also have little toggles here. Brightness, and our contrast, color, volume, and brightness. This thing can be basically pitch black and you can hardly make out anything on screen. But you just swivel that around. Same for contrast, kind of a pain. These buttons are not as easy to move around. Oh, it's kind of got like that DS or 3DS like hinge where you can hold it back a little bit, lock it into place. And color, we can move that around if we want to. I kind of prefer my color, I know. Call me old-fashioned. Although I guess I would be more old-fashioned if I wanted no color. There's our volume toggle as well. My god, alright, we gotta play a game on this thing. So we'll keep the audio low on this guy. That way we can hear the audio from this. And let's start off with You know what it is, Jak II. Am I really that predictable? I presume I am. If there's any time where I can use Jak II as example footage, it will be during moments like this, which is pretty much any time I'm filming something. This little thing is loud. That's pretty loud. It does have a headphone jack, by the way. It's right over here on the left, so you don't have to annoy your siblings or anything like that. But yeah, you can plug in a headphone jack. My God, that is loud. I'll tell you, it's so hard to get a good viewing angle on this. So, my God, I'm going to be breaking my neck capturing this gameplay. For me, I'll tell you, if I'm looking at it dead on like this, I could angle this, of course. It's got like snap angles, so I can like keep it like, maybe I would want it about here. This is actually pretty comfortable. And as crazy as it sounds, I think I could probably play the game like this all the way through. Because like I don't mind small screens. I really don't. Like I think the Game Boy Micro is super cool. So this is like not bad at all. Color accuracy though is just terrible. All right, that looks about good. Yeah. I mean, viewing angle wise, it's poor. You got to look at this thing dead on. This is gonna be so hard to film. This is so tough. This is so hard to film. There's like no getting around it. Like I'm gonna have to use this for the sake of like actually capturing footage of this thing in action. I can't see it from the viewfinder, and I can't see it from the poor viewing angles. Although it will be interesting to see if this has like an input delay. You would imagine it does. There's got to be a few milliseconds here that it's losing. Gosh, you know, if we're gonna make that comparison, the input latency on the Portal is worse. This is still pretty playable. I mean, it's video signals. It's the latency is gonna be much smaller compared to even a best case scenario of the Portal going from Ethernet connected PS5 and then staying in the same room to where the router is connected on a dedicated 5 gigahertz signal. Like even that has more latency than this does. While we're loading up Tony Hawk, let's also do some measurements here, because I don't actually know how big this thing is. You know, also comparing it to a micro. A micro is a little under 2 inches, right? So this is like, yeah, just over 2, something like that. So it's close. I mean, it's really close to a micro screen. So I mean, if you've played on a micro before, then this is comparable. Although, you know, when we're talking about the kind of games you're playing on this versus this, you know, the scope and size of these games, and considering aspect ratio and pixel density, it's like, that's why the micro's kind of playable. This, though, I tell you, Jak II is tough. Put that right there, because God, I love that micro color so much. Alright, let's figure out what we got going on here. Burnquist, there he is. Steve Caballero, my man. Cannonball. There we go, got it. Yeah, I can do it when I'm looking at the TV. Got a stat point, manual balance. You know what this is. All right. All right. Well, Tony Hawk's a little bit more playable, but let's jump to another game. Need for Speed Underground, baby. Let's do a racer. See how this one looks. Ugh. Alright, I think we can put this back. This game actually is a lot better. Racing games are a lot more playable. Can easily make out what's going on as I hit a wall. Although, I'm a little biased here because I'm picking games that I feel very comfortable with. I mean, I've played this one many times over, so these tracks are like ingrained in my mind. So a lot of this just looks like a blurry, colorful mess. But I can still faintly make out what's going on here. It doesn't appear as though I'm going to win this race either. I was in first the whole time, and then I fucked up. Son of a bitch. Alright, I'll say this. Text on screen, useless. I mean, you can't make out anything on this. I mean, like, the text has to be so big for you to make out any sort of words on screen. Like, the race bonuses I'm getting, like the near miss bonus, if I go near a pedestrian vehicle, like, I know that's what it says. But there's, like, no making out what it says if you try and read it. Well, right there, it said lead lap. You just can't make it out. Alright, there we go. I won a race. Not a GTI. Not a Civic. Not a Peugeot. The Miata, baby. Always the Miata. I don't want to dodge Neon. Miata. Alright. Next game. Lord knows I don't need to play this game for the 16th time. I want to see if I can get any good combos off on DBZ Budokai. R.I.P. to one of the greats, baby. Get my ass handed to me. I can't even see where the health bar. I don't know what the health bars are at. Can attack while chasing opponent. Only Goku can use this. I fought for my life to read that right now. Yeah. I mean, I guess the bigger the elements are on screen, the better. So in a fighting game, I mean, it's more playable than Jak. So far, Jak was the worst. Although I guess Tony Hawk wasn't that great either. I'm not sure how many more of these I have in me. My eyes are starting to hurt playing off this thing. Crash Twinsanity. A game that I think many are starting to look back on fondly. More and more, right? A proper Crash game, not from Naughty Dog. I think I'm kind of there too. I do enjoy Twinsanity. I don't think it's a bad game at all. I'm thinking Crash has the same problem as Jak. Platformers are just hard to make out. I think I figured out the secret to playing this while filming. It's me having an absolute power stance. I feel like Crash is easier to play than Jak. If only because the game's a lot more colorful. And I feel like field of view is a little bit tighter on Crash. So it's more manageable, but not by much. I'm starting to think this would be like not a great way to play PS2 games. Yeah, like this is starting to hurt my eyes, son. I don't know how much longer At first I was like, oh, it'd be really cool if I like played a game from start to finish with this thing. And that's initially how I was maybe going to approach this. But the more I tinker with this thing, the more I'm like, I'm ready to put this down. Oh, good lord. I think what we need to test for our final game is a good old-fashioned PlayStation 2 first-person shooter. Why not do Half-Life? I think that would be a good example here. Absolute classic that is very much on the PlayStation 2. Alright, this is one of those things where just trying to set up the controller menu. Cannot see it on this thing. Cannot see it at all. Well, I don't hate first-person experiences on this so far. Granted, the opening sequence of Half-Life is just moving through a lot of corridors and things, and not much happens outside of a bunch of loading screens too. But you know, this is manageable. Hello. You know, I think I'm checked out. I've had enough. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, I'm sure if I was younger, you don't care because you put up with a lot when you're younger. You're just happy to be playing games. You know, like in the context of like playing a Game Boy and making sure you're playing like at the edge of the couch near a lampshade, or having those accessories with the little lights that connect onto it. Like, you just put up with that stuff because obviously it was a different time back then. Having said that, this is so tough to play games on. My eyes are starting to hurt, and these games were not made for a screen this small. But it's still such a really quirky accessory that, you know, again, going back to the Portal, it's like we have that device that's trying to solve the problem that this thing was trying to do at the same time, just 20 years earlier. So it's always cool to look back on those sort of things. But I just had to, like, mess around with this and, again, document it on video because it works. It's something where if you're into this novelty, they do have these for GameCube and Xbox, so it's something to look into. But yeah, controller itself is also kind of a pain. Just, it's like a standard third-party controller, right? Very sort of sticky, squishy buttons. Not even so much an age thing. They just don't feel great to press. The D-pad is god-awful. Yeah, it's very much a product of its time. And at least we were able to showcase it here. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. You take it easy.